What if only one crypto business was invited to a meeting to decide the future of the world's financial system? People in the highest levels of power are starting to talk about things that were once just whispers. New information that seems to link the UK government, the US government, and the digital asset behemoth Ripple is coming to light. We're not talking about hearsay or speculation in the market anymore. We're talking about secret meetings that are at the center of world finance. Meetings that could be the first step toward a complete change in how money moves around the world. What was spoken behind those doors could transform all we thought we knew about how wealth will be in the future. But first, let's talk about how to build your own financial future before we tell you this amazing story. You need a solid plan if you want to stop guessing and start making smart, strong investment decisions. That's why I've spent more than 10 years doing a lot of study and investing to make the Ultimate Millionaire's Investment Guide. This isn't simply another PDF or a bunch of Excel spreadsheets. It is a complete step-by-step system that will help you learn how to see the next big possibilities long before they become popular. The secret to real prosperity is being able to anticipate the future before anyone else. The only link to this tutorial is in the description below. Now, let's go inside Downing Street. The setting was prepared for a big U.S. presidential state visit to the U.K. Cassie Crook, the CEO and managing director of Ripple in Europe, participated at an exclusive roundtable here. And who was sitting at the other end of the table? The UK Chancellor, Rella Reeves, and the US Secretary of the Treasury, Scott Bent, are the only ones. They weren't by themselves. They were joined by a carefully chosen group of representatives from the biggest financial and cryptocurrency companies in the UK and US. The main goal of this meeting was to talk about the huge chance to work together more closely on digital assets. Crook herself said it was a relationship that might set a standard for how the whole business can work together around the world. This wasn't a friendly conversation. This was the first draft of a new financial plan. Consider how important this moment is. Ripple, a US-based corporation with a large presence in the UK, is being set up to take use of its unique transatlantic presence. This isn't simply about encouraging new ideas in technology. It's all about fundamentally supporting and advancing the use of blockchain in the UK, which is one of the world's most important financial capitals. The goal is clear: to turn the UK from a traditional financial center into a world leader in digital asset innovation. This roundtable and other such events are ways to fully realize the economic potential of blockchain technology in the two most powerful countries in the world. Ripple is more than just a part of the conversation. They are making a real difference in how it turns out. The world's best blockchain infrastructure provider can now work directly with the two biggest financial heavyweights. What more proof do you need that something big is happening? The main point of this important discussion was how important it was to have regulatory coherence right now. The governments of both the UK and the US have now publicly stated their desire to bring their different regulatory positions into line before implementing crypto legislation that would affect the whole world. They are working hard to make their economies work together for a new era of value transfer that is based on blockchain. And who is sitting at the head of that table and taking part in the conversation? Ripple. This isn't a coincidence. It's the result of a long-term plan. We need to remember what happened here in the past. Years ago, the Bank of England did early, successful experiments on Ripple's technology. Since then, a strong cooperation has been quietly growing. And just when you think you know what's going on, something else comes up that makes it even more mysterious. While these talks on money were going on, the Prime Minister of Canada was also seen at the Bank of England. If you're developing a global ledger that will be used by the world's most powerful governments, who do you call? What would that one ledger be if the world had to switch to a new system right now? Would it be Stellar, Hedera, R3? The stillness speaks volumes. None of them were asked to come to this important meeting in Downing Street. It looks like the choice is being made right in front of us. The main topics that were talked about were not abstract. They were specific and focused on the need for balanced regulation. They used the UK's Financial Services and Markets Act to make it much easier for institutions to accept digital assets like XRP. This isn't something new, it's the result of years of work. Ripple has a long history of working closely with the UK government. They've had a number of UK policy summits where they even revealed a comprehensive four-point plan to press for a regulatory environment that is good for growth. Their approach supports worldwide standards for cryptocurrencies, calls for stablecoins to be legally clear, and advocates for the removal of barriers to asset tokenization. This is how a modern financial system works. Ripple has worked closely with UK authorities and the Bank of England in the past to test out blockchain-based cross-border payments. They have been actively looking for ways to make sure that the movement of different currencies in real-time gross settlement systems stays in sync. This is what central banks talk about, and Ripple knows how to speak it. So why do we really need this technology? Ripple's CEO, Brad Garlinghouse, described it quite well. The current method for correspondent banking is old and quite slow. It needs something called pre-funded capital, which is money that is basically sitting in accounts all across the world to make payments easier. The entire amount of this stuck, unproductive capital is an unbelievable $10 trillion. There is too much oil in the engine, which is what it is like. If you can cut down on the amount of that oil needed, you can make the world economy work much better. That $10 trillion is now available. It turns into stock buybacks, dividends, and working capital for many other important things. It's a positive thing for everyone on Earth. This is the main value proposition, not only storing value but moving it around. This is where the big difference in the realm of digital assets becomes very evident. Even the biggest fans of Bitcoin, including Michael Saylor and Jack Mallers, say that its main use is as a place to keep value. It's like gold in digital form. But can all of this be stored on a network that is basically just a vault if the global financial system, which is worth hundreds of trillions of dollars, is tokenized and brought on-chain? It's hard to understand. You need cash or working capital to raise the price of Bitcoin. Bitcoin might very easily reach prices that are hard to believe, like $500,000 or even $1 million. However, the concept that it could hold all of the tokenized equities, bonds, derivatives, real estate, and debt markets seems preposterous. For those systems to work, they need to be fast, efficient, and cheap to use. They need a network that is useful, like the XRP ledger. Because of all this institutional mobility, the conversation naturally goes to price. Analysts are trying to use models from past cycles to guess what XRP will be worth in the future. Based on past chart patterns and the XRP to Bitcoin ratio, we've seen numbers like $10 being bandied around. This kind of analysis, on the other hand, might be dangerously short-sighted, even while it's interesting. It typically doesn't take into consideration the big changes that are happening right now. It doesn't take into account the huge institutional demand that would come from an ETF approval, and it also doesn't appropriately weigh the fast-falling supply of XRP. The amount of XRP that can be traded on exchanges is at a very low level, which alters everything. In a world where global superpowers are knocking on the door, the old paradigms may not work. Now we come to the last and most important point. There are only roughly 1.9 billion XRP left on exchanges, according to the statistics. That might sound like a lot, but in the grand scheme of things, it's just a drop in the ocean. This available resource is being slowly used up. So, let me ask you this. What happens when that supply runs out? When governments, banks, and big financial organizations eventually want XRP and find that the shelves are empty, what do you think will happen to the price of XRP on your favorite exchange? It appears that a premium is not only likely, but also unavoidable. A huge supply shock is about to happen. Behind closed doors, The structure of our financial world is being changed, and every day the plans become apparent. It's time to learn what you need to know if you want to be more than just a spectator in this historic transfer of wealth. Don't forget to click the link in the description to download the Ultimate Millionaire's Investment Guide. Now is your chance to quit going along with the crowd and learn how to take control of your own money. In the end, we are left with a silent revolution. The components are coming together for a new global standard, and the evidence strongly supports this. The question is no more whether a significant change will occur, but rather the extent to which it will transform our world upon its occurrence. Typed up by turboscribe.ai. To get rid of this message, go to Unlimited.